Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Yesterday, December 6th, 2015, Obama went before the nation via the television screen and gave a speech on terrorism, mass shootings, and ISIS. In his speech, saying he promises to destroy ISIS, or as he refers to it, ISIL. For those of us who are awake and with eyes to see, these speeches, this rhetoric, this ongoing media programming becomes more painful by the day. Why? Because we are awake to the fact that we are being lied to. And these incidents that are brought up by Obama in his speech last night, such as the Boston Marathon bombing and several of the recent shootings in media history, have been nothing but propaganda known as false flags or government-sponsored hoaxes put on by our federal government for the purpose of the government taking the problem, blaming it on a boogeyman, and then providing a solution, which is how they achieve their agenda of war and the stealing of liberties and shaping this nation in the way that serves their power interests. Truth Seeker, what you need to know about me is that I have been speaking out about all of this since September 11th, 2001. It was very clear what went on that day in my mind from the second it happened. A monumental lie used for war and used for legal changes. The Patriot Act was passed in the days after September 11th. And if you're not aware of what the Patriot Act was, it was thousands of pieces of legislation never able to pass Congress from the 70s up to 2001 that were punched into a single bill and pushed through with no problem. All because of this propaganda boogeyman event on September 11th, which Obama referenced several times last night in his speech. When Obama was running for president in 2007 and 2008, I was living in Seattle, and a major part of his base lived in that city where he came to visit and spoke at Key Arena. At the time Obama was running for president, I was speaking out everywhere about how people needed to wake up to this deceiver and how he was running to truly kill hope, not running to bring hope. I was explaining to people how his voting record was atrocious and he was a supporter of the ongoing tyranny, the lies and deceit, the propaganda that keeps us at war, and building a national spy state. Let's go back to 2004 when Obama gave the Democratic National Keynote Address. This is when Bush and Kerry were running for president, the former members of Yale Skull and Bones, the Masonic Order. Let's listen to what Obama said in 2004. This is the day the nation was introduced to him for the first time. Mainstream outlets asked if this could possibly be the first black president that we're looking at. It sure was, and it's because we're living out a script. And these are the agent actors willing to sell us out, Barack Obama included. Here we go, 2004.
But then I ask myself, are we serving Seamus as well as he's serving us? I thought of the 900 men and women, sons and daughters, husbands and wives, friends and neighbors who won't be returning to their own hometowns. I thought of the families I'd met who were struggling to get by without a loved one's full income, or whose loved ones had returned with a limb missing or nerves shattered, but still lacked long-term health benefits because they were reservists. When we send our young men and women into harm's way, we have a solemn obligation not to fudge the numbers or shade the truth about why they are going, to care for their families while they're gone, to tend to the soldiers upon their return, and to never, ever go to war without enough troops to win the war, secure the peace, and earn the respect of the world.
We're going to listen to a little bit more, but realize what he's saying there. He's not calling out the lies. He's saying we're going to send more troops and win these wars. And these are wars based on entirely deceit. The invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq were unnecessary. They were for economic strategic purposes, not for the reasons we were told. Anybody who stands for that is part of the group of wrongdoers. And Obama clearly showed himself to be part of that group. In this same speech, he tells the people of this nation that they need to get over the things they're complaining about with regards to George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, saying it's water under the bridge, we need to look forward, not look behind. By saying that, he's saying there doesn't need to be justice for the wrongdoing done at the beginning of the Bush administration. For those of you who weren't awake, the George W. Bush administration was very criminal, very dishonest. And that's what happens with each one of these unchecked presidencies. They set the precedent so that the next administration can be even worse. Let's listen to how he finishes up here.
Now let me be clear. Let me be clear. We have real enemies in the world. These enemies must be found, they must be pursued, and they must be defeated.
You know who was saying that exact line almost that same way with that same handshake? George W. Bush, the president at that time. Obama is here regurgitating the rhetoric with a little bit friendlier words. And that's exactly what he's done throughout his entire presidency. Sell the Bush administration with a smile on his face. And meanwhile, all these people who were so violently opposed to the Bush administration have never seen through it and have told themselves that Obama's a great guy. That's what it's like living here in Seattle, where everybody hated George W. Bush but loves Barack Obama even though he governs the exact same way. Tells me that the people of this world don't see, they believe. They believe, they don't think. And they just believe whatever's most comforting to them.
John Kerry knows this. And just as Lieutenant Kerry did not hesitate to risk his life to protect the men who served with him in Vietnam, President Kerry will not hesitate one moment to use our military might to keep America safe and secure. John Kerry believes in America.
All right, Truth Seeker, that's enough. And there he is using that word believe right there. Show you something interesting. Obama gave that speech in Boston, Massachusetts, where the Democratic Keynote Address was in 2004. There are only 3 states in this nation that have gematria of 33. The first, Delaware. The last, Hawaii, where Obama's supposedly from. And Massachusetts, the 6th state. Only 33 states. And out of the entire United States, only 3 established on dates with 33 numerology. But check this out, Truth Seeker. This number 33 is very important to this gang that runs the world. And they code it into a lot of their wrongdoing. Notice that the word believe has a gematria of 33. The people who rule this world want us to believe and not think so that we'll believe their lies. And if you're new to my channel, I show how the gang that rules the world uses this gematria language. Teach you something about Barack Hussein Obama real quick. Notice that his name sums to 64. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 64, and civil rights has gematria of 64 itself. Obama was elected the 44th president 44 years after the Civil Rights Act in 2008. Unfortunately, 44 is not a good number in terms of history. It's what I call the kill number. The first president to ever die in office died on 4/4, April 4th, just like Martin Luther King Jr., the face of the Civil Rights Act. The last president to die in office was the 44th term president, JFK. There's been many other assassinations in history with 44 coded into them. Abraham Lincoln, several other presidents in office. Julius Caesar died in the year 44 BC. What I'm trying to tell you is that we are living out a monumental setup. The word hope has gematria of 44. Obama, the 44th president elected 44 years after the Civil Rights Act, ran on hope. What I was saying back in 2008 when he was running is that it's a setup. He's going to be the next president. He's going to be the president in the time of a major turning point in this nation, and a lot of people are going to blame him for it. He's coming into a house of cards. Truth Seeker, we are living out this reality. And I saw all this from the beginning. We are being set up. I've come to think that Obama where this is all leading to is his assassination, which is going to do a lot of different things very negative for a lot of different people. Obama's the man willing to play the part, the actor agent who doesn't mean anything that he says. Look at this, truth seeker. This is when I knew it was over for Barack Obama. This is when I knew this guy was the absolute worst, nothing but scum. On July 2nd, 2008, it was reported that he voted for immunity for the telecommunication companies. And if you weren't paying attention in 2008, it came out that all these major phone companies had been collecting all of our data for all these years, violating our constitutional rights. And people in Congress are saying they need to be held accountable, these mega corporations. This is high treason. This is illegal. Well, our own Congress, truth seeker, voted for immunity so that none of these companies could ever be prosecuted. And Obama voted for that immunity after being on the campaign trail saying the right thing, that they needed to be held accountable, that they needed to be brought to justice. But then when it came time to vote, he voted opposite of his rhetoric, showing that he was nothing more than a politician and willing to sell us out on the most important of issues. If you look at Obama's voting record, he might as well have been in the Bush administration. So here's Obama, 11 years later, looking a little bit older, selling us out. Now check this out, truth seeker. Yesterday was an interesting day in history that he gave this speech, December 6th. It was the 150-year anniversary of the ratification of the 13th Amendment, meaning the end of slavery. A very important moment in black history. And here, 150 years later to the day, Obama, the first black president, is going before the nation, helping make sure that we maintain being a nation of slaves, slaves to lies and deceit. And that's no misuse of the word. We are slaves. We have no choice in this world. We're born into it. We have to get indoctrinated in the education system or there's consequences. We have to participate in the money system or there's consequences. At no point in your life are you ever free. You're free to make some consumer choices, but you're never free. You're born into this world with a number stamped on you. You're tracked from day one, and you're expected to obey the rules of this nation. Now, here's what I want to show you where it gets creepy, truth seeker. Notice this headline, Obama, we will destroy ISIS, which was not his quote, but what CNN put on the cover page for a reason. We will destroy ISIS has gematria of 84, just like United States of America. And as for Obama, he has a number of 84 connections as well. His name in Jewish gematria sums to 84, a name that is not his own. It is his actor agent name, all part of the psychological operations which he is part of. Think about who this nation was trained to hate. The boogeyman of the post-9/11 era, Osama. Then we get President Obama with the middle name Hussein. The other man who was confused for blame on September 11th, Saddam Hussein. Obama's birthday is August 4th. August 4th, 8-4. What's interesting about 150, which is what yesterday was, the 150-year anniversary of the ratification of the 13th Amendment, 150 happens to have gematria of 84. And I guarantee you this is no coincidence. This is how the madmen who run this show operate. And this is why I teach this skill. Something else interesting about this number is it has a gematria of 174. This is the number of the New World Order, which is really an old world order, which is what established this nation once upon a time. This nation is just part of an agenda, a war agenda. We are the war arm of the New World Order. Born out of a genocide, been at war almost every year ever since. Now, truth seeker, check this out. The first ever year that our Congress debated legislation that had to do with civil rights was in 1864. 64, civil rights. Civil Rights Act in 1964. This is what I mean, truth seeker. This has always been their code.